Okay, so now you should be able to hear me. Can you hear me on the stream?
Yeah.
Awesome. Alright. We're gonna make 3 minutes, so we're gonna go through the entire recap. Which I promise is pretty okay. This is a small meeting. So you're new.
Yeah.
What's your name, man?
I'm Michael.
Nice to meet you, Michael. My name is Bernard. So, how'd you hear about us?
I was just interested in robotics, and I asked the ASME guys to get me on your Discord.
Nice.
That's okay.
It's a good thing we're recruiting from ASME, because we took all of ASME's robotics guys at that point. To be fair, I didn't want that money left when we took the rest of them, but yeah. So I'm Bernard, I'm the current president. I'm graduating this semester, unfortunately. That is Justin, the current vice president, or future president, as we like to unfortunately torture him with. Aaron, who's going to be our new vice president, and then we've got a couple people running for office. Ethan and, where's Ethan and Aiden? That's what I'm worried about right now.
They better show. Do they think it's N61 still?
Oh,
Yeah.
We posted.
that's a point.
I can go check N61.
Go check N61. Can someone check Eastside Studio real quick?
Do what?
Can someone check the Eastside Studio just to make sure they're not for the day? Oh, wait, I forgot to do a thing. Stand by. Intermission. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Mr. Yamokoski, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Hello, sir, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, you're coming through loud and clear. Okay, so we're going to start with a quick introduction of the club and its people. There, come on in. Hey! We're going to start with a quick introduction of the club, what we did, and just sort of a recap of the entire club semester. Then we're going to hand it off to you to sort of present about Nauticus Robotics, how to get involved with your company, if you guys have any openings, and just talk about what makes your company so cool to work for, right? And then when you're done, with your positions, we'll have a Q&A session for a little bit. You'll be free to leave after the Q&A session is done, and that should be okay. Is that all right? Because I know you're a very busy human being. Okay.
The audio, it's hard to understand a little bit. The audio quality is not very good right now.
Oh, okay. Let me switch microphones. That's fine. Let me switch microphones and see if that fixes it. Is that better?
Yeah, that's great. That
Yeah.
sounds better.
We switched. We have some microphones that are working, some are not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can hear you much better. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So. Okay. So, is everyone basically here? Are we waiting on Aiden? Is Aiden not coming?
Let's give him like 5 minutes if not.
DM him because he wanted to run for office. All right, let's get started. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to the last last general meeting of the Robotics Club, University of Houston. My name is Bernard. I am the current president of Robotics Club. I am graduating at the end of the semester, heading out to. Please hold one. That is not priority. Okay, I'm a graduating student this semester in mechanical engineering, and I founded this club back in 2019 as initially called University Drone Pilots. Our objective back then was to just fly drones around campus and have fun. Nowadays, we've expanded into such a large organization. We've had almost 3 times the members that we had back in 2019, or close to 5 times the members now compared to the 3 people we had at the beginning. And so I could not be more proud of the organization that I've built, and I really wish you guys would go further, but let's go to the rest of the whole thing. Let's load. Okay, so let's start, of course, with our 2022-2023 recap. After that, we are going to have a guest speaker who is Dr. John Yamokoski. Dr. John Yamokoski is from, please tell me if I'm mispronouncing your name. Dr. Yamokoski is the CTO, I believe, of Nauticus Robotics. Yes, CTO of Nauticus Robotics, who is just a major robotics company. They used to be called Houston Mechatronics, and I was introduced to Houston Mechatronics back when a friend of mine interned for them in 2017. They are a company that has been a long-serving Houston institution of robotics and robotic platforms, and so they've got a lot of expertise on not just how to build robots, but how to do fun stuff with them in the world of Houston, especially in the oil and gas industry, where you guys make most of your bank. So we will have a guest presentation from him in a bit. But first, let's go to a recap. All right. First things first, we need to congratulate a couple of people. First things first is Aiden, who has disappeared, for getting second place at the. First person I have to thank is Aiden for getting second place at Texas A&M Combat Robotics Cup. We are really proud of him. Congratulations. All right. He also got third at the University of Houston Cup. Speaking of University of Houston Cup, congratulations to Ethan for getting first place in the UH Cup. I should probably tab over to the screen where you can see them. Yeah. Wave, Ethan? Okay, awesome. All right. So, as well as congratulations to, why is Aiden twice?
That's Aiden Aaron.
Okay, Aaron for getting 4th place at the UH Cup and 7th place at Texas A&M. And also congratulations to Justin for, even though he missed the UH tournament, managed to get 4th place at Texas A&M University. Congratulations. So this year our organization has been highly competitive in a competition called Combat Robotics. It's a very small competition where we build robots from the 150-gram weight class all the way up to the 12-pound weight class to basically destroy each other for fun, right? It started off as basically a CAD exercise, but it's grown so much, and we'll go into that more in detail. Our current officer corps, my name is, again, this is Bernard. I am the retiring president. This is Justin Nguyen, who's right over here, who's going to be our new president. This is Aaron Hinkle over here, who is going to be our new vice president. We had a lot of fun this year going to competitions. It was the first year ever doing a competition that wasn't just us meeting in someone's backyard and crashing a drone into the window. And we went to 3 different competitions. We went to A&M. We went to we had hosted one here at the University of Houston, and we went over to the Ion. Yeah, to visit to hold a competition over there. We went through a lot of stress doing that. As many of you guys remember, there was a lot of pressure on us to get robots done. A lot of pressure on us at the competition to figure out why our robots weren't turning on, doing other things. But we also went to new places and saw so many new things. We went to University of Texas to help their competition. We've done so much and learned so much. About a year ago, most of the BattleBots Club didn't know how to CAD, right? Or solder, or how to build electronics with robots. And now today, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 robots on the field. Well, 1 dead. And a competition coming up very soon, right? We've accomplished so much from when I started this club a long time ago to now, and I'm really, really, really happy to be passing up the torch to you guys. I cannot be more proud of this organization, and I really look forward to what you guys do next. Yeah. So, on that note, I'm going to take a pause from being a sob story and pass it on to Dr. John Yamokoski, who is going to talk about his company. Can you hear? Okay, whatever you want to do now, you're free to do. If you want.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Well, thank you for the introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you all today. Super excited to hear. I will be honest, I did not. I certainly know about University of Houston, and we've actually career from the great university, and it's awesome to hear about the robotics effort, the robotics stuff going on there. And hats off to you for getting this started. It's really awesome idea. So I'm going to share my screen here. I've got a slide deck to kind of run through and give you a background of who we are, what we do, and please at any time, just if you guys have questions, feel free to stop me and ask while we're going through the content here.
All right.
So,
can you please hold one? We've got a glitch on the live stream. We've got a glitch on the live stream. I'm patching it now. For those who are unaware, we also have a very good YouTube presence. So if you want to follow us on YouTube afterwards, that is a good thing to do. I believe we sent you that link. Okay. All right. You should now be good. Uh-oh.
Can you see a slide deck from space to sea?
We do not on YouTube. That is not good. Hang on. Let me switch to. Let me try doing this. Let me just capture. Let me just capture display. Okay. Switch to. Windows 10. No. Okay. Alright. Press John. There we go. Now it should be up.
Okay. You see the title slide?
Yes, now everyone should be able to see it.
Okay, great. Awesome.
There we go.
All right, so thank you all again. So I'm going to be going through, kind of who Nauticus is, where we came from, and kind of what it is that the mission that we're on. So kind of kicking off from where we came from, we are, started, as you mentioned, we used to be called Houston Mechatronics. A group of us, kind of the genesis of the company came from a kind of core group of engineers and kind of scientists who were at NASA Johnson Space Center, where we were working on robotics projects there at NASA Johnson Space Center. And there was a theme you're going to see after you go through the presentation, and that theme that we kind of carried from our days at NASA through into ocean robotics. And so we were very focused on the core set of problems, and I think the next video that I've got here will kind of help demonstrate that issue that we were working on. So this is an old video. This is the Robonaut 2. This is a NASA vehicle, not Nauticus, mounted on a humanoid platform, or humanoid robot built on kind of four-wheeled vehicle here, and it's driving under remote supervision, and tasked with going and doing some activity, in this case, kind of helping geologists map out, pick up a rock and help with the science activities of kind of planetary exploration. And so, at its core, what we were really tasked with doing was putting robots in remote locations and doing useful work with them. And that could have changed, that could have been robots on the International Space Station, and robots on Moon or Mars, wherever the administration wanted to maybe go. We were building the capabilities to be ready so that we could support human exploration with robots. And a lot of times that meant being able to control these systems, these very complex, multi-degree of freedom systems, over very poor communication links and bad time delay. Even talking to things up on space station, which is not physically very far away, still it's about on the order of a few second time delay for a message to go through all the various Earth networks before it gets beamed up and arrive at the space station. And what we found is, this is going back into the late 90s, early 2000s. Anyone who's a gamer is certainly familiar with this as well too. It does not take very much lag to be introduced into the communication with your system to cause, if you're trying to do things like direct teleop control of your system, it begins to really frustrate your operator. And so the worse the time delay gets, the worse the communication link gets for your system, the more onboard autonomy you need to be able to deal with the second-by-second, kind of minute-by-minute activities the robot's doing. So the robot can basically do things on its own, and you as a human operator provide less and less information, kind of higher level directives to the system. And so that's the kind of core principle that core set of problems that we focused on when we were at NASA. Next slide is just more kind of fun. This was one of the big projects I worked on was getting, I personally worked on was getting our robot ready for a space station. And I like to show this because, the astronaut, they live a very scripted life. Every minute is of their daily activities when they wake up, when they go to bed, when they do. Every half hour is scripted. And so we flew our robot to the space station, and when it arrived there, the crew had a good time, had some fun with us. So in a moment of loss of signal, they unpacked the robot, and when we got the signal back with them, they opened up the box and they were like, "Wait, did you guys remember to pack the robot?" And so they had a good time with it, but they had in the loss of signal, they had kind of unpacked it ahead of time and kind of unstowed the robot and put it over in the corner of the lab. We went on to have a really good, successful work with this system. Had the kind of first human robot handshake in space. Hopefully you guys can hear the audio. We made the Saturday Night Live on it. They have commemorating it. I don't know if you guys can hear the audio. Can you hear it?
Unfortunately, no, we cannot hear the audio.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll try to get that
We'll
one.
go ahead and skip. But it is quite funny. If you probably find it on YouTube, but it was you've arrived as a roboticist when you get a bit on Saturday Night Live. So it was a good time for us. Okay, switching gears a little bit. So what does all this mean for who we are today? Well, so history is always a reflection of kind of where you're going. But before we kind of get into what Nauticus is doing, I kind of wanted to give some context for when we arrived on the scene and started looking at the subsea industry. I want to kind of give you some of the context for what the world looked like when we kind of got into robotics and subsea. So subsea IMR, what does IMR mean? It stands for inspection, maintenance, and repair. I'll quote here first. It isn't that they cannot find a solution, it is that they cannot see the problem. And so when we entered into the world
If you guys have questions, put them up on
subsea
the
inspection,
screen.
maintenance, repair, it was kind of a little bit shocking to us. But before we get to that, we'll first kind of lay some groundwork and kind of give you some appreciation for how big of a market this is. So on this slide here is a picture of the Gulf Coast. Should be familiar to anyone who lives in this region, but what may not be familiar is the kind of huge network and infrastructure of subsea assets that are right off the Gulf Coast here. This picture in particular is of all of the gas and oil pipelines that kind of crisscross the Gulf of Mexico. And then attached to all of those those are just the pipelines, and then attached to all those pipelines, of course, are either active wells where they are pumping material or product out of the ground, other subsea infrastructure like things called manifolds, where these pipes connect into these manifolds, and it's kind of like a switchboard, if you will, for product. Product kind of comes in from various locations, gets reshuffled onto another pipe and sent out down the line ultimately to a land-based processing facility. So I remember when I first took a look at this, I didn't really have an appreciation for how much hardware is actually out there in the Gulf of Mexico. And this Gulf of Mexico is just one area that looks like this in the world. And there are other areas like the North Sea, for instance. It looks very similar to this picture. Off the coast of Africa, off the coast of South America, have similar amounts of subsea infrastructure to service extracting various products from the ground. And remember that the subsea environment is a very hazardous place to put hardware. You have pressures to contend with. You have saltwater corrosion. You have hurricanes and storms that pass through the area. And so all of that hardware has to be routinely inspected and maintained in order to prevent, what can be otherwise a very environmental, kind of environmental catastrophes if some of this hardware is to break catastrophically. And so today there's a pretty healthy business community around inspecting and maintaining all that hardware. So in this video is it gives you a sense for what kind of current state-of-the-art technology is. So current state-of-the-art technology is you have a large vessel that comes on site and drops overboard what's called an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. And then there's a team of folks on board the ship. This is a picture of an actual ROV operation, actually a kind of complex ROV operation of dual ROVs operating simultaneously. And so you have this kind of crew of pilots and manipulator pilots who are flying these vehicles. You usually have one pilot for the ROV itself, the platform, and you have one pilot for the arm. Not always, but sometimes that's the case. And these things are what is the backbone of today's, the kind of state-of-the-art of today's inspection, maintenance, and repair for subsea assets. And you're also getting some pictures of what some of that hardware looks like. It's not just pipes crisscrossing the ocean floor, but these huge manifolds, or these other terms called subsea trees, and other hardware that's down there. So it is quite complex in terms of the materials that are down there and the things that need to be checked on. So, anyways, that is what represents current state of the art. And so when we entered into the market. Go ahead, do you have a question?
Yeah, before that, we've had 3 questions pop up on the stream. The first question was, what latency did you have on Robonaut when you were teleoperating it? Was it a long latency, or was it just something you guys were dealing with in testing?
So we looked at a variety of different latencies. When we sent the Robonaut to the space station, we were only dealing with time delays on the order of a second or 2 seconds or so, sometimes 30 seconds. So not an incredible amount, but it's enough to where if you want to do kind of what's called direct drive or teleoperated control, we found that we did measurements on this in the late 90s, before my time at NASA actually. But when I say we, NASA engineers, did experiments and found that only takes about a quarter of a second of time delay, and you will frustrate your human operators who are trying to do teleoperating control.
That's 250 milliseconds, right? That's 250 milliseconds, right?
Yeah, 250 milliseconds. It does not take very much time delay to frustrate kind of direct drive teleop control of a platform like that.
How many people here played Call of Duty on 300 ping?
Yeah, a quarter of a second is not very much. Now that just gets to the level of kind of frustration of the operator. It doesn't prevent operations. But when you start talking about more than that, like 30 seconds or a minute, now you're talking about significant delays where things like teleoperating control just will not work. And so you need, and then of course the case gets worse and worse the further out you go. So if you wanted to do operations on the moon, or you want to do operations on Mars, where there's significant time delay on the order of minutes or tens of minutes, when you get out as far as Mars, then you need a different paradigm to control your system. And that is presuming, of course, that you care about some sort of overall time efficiency of your operations. If you don't care how long it takes you to do a task, then of course you can deal with the time delay in a very simplistic approach. You can just send a command, wait for a response, and get the video feed or the pictures back, make another decision, and then send a command and proceed that way. Of course, it will take you a really long time to do something meaningful. But if you can give the system instead kind of high-level directives like, hey, go pick up that rock over there, and the system then takes care of the sequencing its actions and dealing with the unexpected consequences of doing its actions to go pick up that rock, much like you would to another human, well then you have a much more time-efficient use of everyone's time. And for systems that are battery-powered or have some other consumable on board, which is almost every robot doesn't have infinite power storage, doesn't have infinite compute and everything like that, then you do care about time efficiency. becomes a real concern for a lot of mission designers and planners. So, was there another question?
There was one more question. Did
Yeah.
the BP or Exxon oil spill affect like the mission of why you wanted to go into your company at all, or is that not a factor in?
No, so we do have a significant, and we'll talk about this in a upcoming slide. But we do have a significant environmental impact for our technology. In our kind of concerns about the environment is definitely a driver. Everybody who's involved in the industry, whether it's traditional ROV operators or kind of new starts like ourselves, everyone has a role to play in that protecting the environment. And so it is with kind of great responsibility that everyone involved, all companies involved, take very seriously the safety of not only the environment and the impact of the environment, but also safety of the humans as well too. And so there is a tremendous amount of effort placed by the industry on safe execution and in regards to both safeguarding the environment as well as safeguarding the people that perform the work out there. And that is certainly the same thing that certainly at Nauticus as well as a lot of the other businesses involved in this industry. It's a very big focus.
Does anyone here else have any questions for him before we move on? Go for it.
Are there any ways that we can tour Nauticus Robotics?
It's initially the plan. It was a plan. We could probably rethink about it in fall. Right, if that's okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
His question was it possible for us to tour and see your guys' facility at some point?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So long as we have some time, it's not just like tomorrow. Yeah, we can absolutely arrange that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can certainly arrange that.
Ethan?
Go ahead.
I have a general question about.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious on. So you said that the batteries, the power needs to be like efficient when dealing with space. How do they either recharge batteries up there or prevent it from taking too long and then it loses too much battery?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on the mission, or it depends on the system. But number one way, and there's other power sources too, but predominantly most missions when they're planned and deployed use solar charging for replenishing batteries. There are alternative systems out there as well too, but solar is one of the predominant ways in which things are getting recharged. When you're talking about how does the system, so there's two ways to deal with not running out of battery prematurely. One is an awful lot of planning goes into what a robot is going to do for a given day's worth of activities. And so meticulous planning occurs in order to kind of map out, okay, here's exactly the steps that we're going to do today. We're going to drive 10 kilometers. We're going to go pick up some object or what have you. And then Nauticus is no different. We do the same thing where we put together mission plans for our systems. And we have power budgets and power models based off of a combination of either design specs or kind of models based off of data that we've collected from real vehicle performance. And so we can kind of map out and get an estimate for how much energy capacity we're going to need for a day's worth or a mission's worth of activities, if it's a multi-day thing, for instance. And then, so that's kind of, so the lot of work is at the planning front, and then on the execution side of things, we rely on, Nauticus, I can't speak for other systems, but we, Nauticus, rely on software that monitors battery state, so we get statistics and telemetry from our battery system, and we monitor that information, and we have systems that will essentially kind of kick in, behaviors that will kick in if the battery state gets to a point at which it no longer has energy to kind of come home, or energy to get back to a recharge point. And those will kind of take precedence over whatever else is going on at the time if it gets into a state that it's not supposed to be in. So planning, the short answer is planning and then kind of reactive behaviors to execute. So you try to do as much as you can with planning and make sure that you have enough power. And if you're off or something unexpected happens and you end up sending more power and the water current is stronger than you thought it was, then you have reactive behaviors to protect you from loss of vehicle or something else like that. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions, so feel free to continue.
All right, great. We'll keep them coming. Okay, so I covered what is kind of current state of the art. You just imagine that this big vessel comes in and drops off this maybe the size of a refrigerator or larger. I've seen much larger as well. ROVs, and you have a crew of anywhere from 4 to 6 people on board who are just there dedicated to driving that refrigerator size or larger vehicle around. So that's current state of the art. So we looked at that problem and we thought, wow, if you could apply what we know how to do, what we learned how to do at NASA, and remotely operate a much smarter or more intelligent vehicle, then you get a lot of things kind of come for free. And so I'll play a video here. This is our kind of an overview of our offering, what we offer to the market. So conceptually, Hydronaut, which is our service vessel, comes in and drops off Aquanaut, which is the vehicle on the back there. It's our version of an ROV. It's more than an ROV, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it drops off that vehicle. Notice something very important. There's no tether. So there's no umbilical between the topside vessel and the vehicle that goes underwater. Aquanaut, this is actually Mark II. Mark II has the ability to charge wirelessly on the subsea floor. Pending, the infrastructure has to pre-exist, but there's more and more field operators who are putting in subsea charging stations. But even without it, the vehicle has pretty significant range. It can travel up to 200 kilometers on a single charge, on a single battery charge, which is more than enough range to visit most of the hardware from shore that's subsea. And if not, it has hydrogen to kind of carry it to where it needs to go, and then use its 200 kilometer range in the vicinity of a job site, for instance. It has a good bit of onboard perception sensors, a mix of visible light and sonar-based sensors that help it kind of make measurements of pipelines or other infrastructure. And then when it needs to, it can pull out a set of manipulators to do actual real work. So what's really interesting about this platform, and that's really different, number one, we've already talked about, which is the umbilical. So no umbilical. The other major difference is that it really combines two vehicle morphologies. So we've already seen pictures of the traditional ROV, the remotely operated vehicle. Those are the current, today, workhorse of the subsea industry. So when you have to do an inspection, maintenance, repair task, you call up an ROV company. There is another class of vehicle that's out there today called AUVs, or autonomous underwater vehicle. Now AUVs don't have manipulators on them. AUVs are typically torpedo shaped. They are autonomous, typically, and they're sent on missions where they can go do things like pipeline inspection or bathymetry surveys, so basically mapping out the bottom of the seafloor. And so people will deploy these. There's companies out there that start with this technology today, and they'll go deploy these kind of torpedo-shaped AUVs, and they'll go off on a mission, go take pictures of the environment, and come back, and they'll download all the data, and then process it, do whatever they're going to do with that data. Importantly, though, those AUVs do not have manipulators on them. So they can go take pictures of stuff, but they cannot go affect change in the environment. So we took those two concepts. We took the ROV that has manipulators and the AUV that does not have manipulators, and kind of slammed them together, and got the best of both worlds. So our vehicle can travel long distances like an AUV, with kind of a hydrodynamically efficient shape. And then when it gets to where it's going, it can transform and reveal a set of manipulators to do work with interfaces that are typical of subsea interfaces that you might find. So that's Aquanaut and kind of the conceptual operations of Aquanaut. The other piece I mentioned was Hydronaut. This is a picture of our what we call our mule vehicle, kind of our version 1. We actually took an existing vessel and refitted it for our purposes, and we use it for testing and prototype development. That's a picture of Kima, if you guys know your Houston geography really well. So obviously, for those who've been there, down there a bunch. So anyways, we port out of either Kima or sometimes out of Galveston area, and we use, again, this is our first version of Hydronaut. We are currently building, just like we have a kind of new version of Aquanaut coming out, Mark II, we have a new version of Hydronaut coming out, purpose-built, and it's being built currently out of the UK. I don't have any pictures of it, but it's going into it's done its first water test this month, and next month we'll be starting sea trial. Yeah, pretty shortly here, starting sea trials, the first unit. And then finally, the other product that we have is the Olympic arm. So interestingly, the Olympic arm is one of the kind of problems that the company we stumbled into. We didn't really set out to build the world's first world-class electric underwater arm. Excuse me. But when we did, we found out that there was tremendous interest from the community in it. So the manipulators you saw on the ROV systems are still predominantly, or not predominantly, are just about 100% of them are all hydraulically powered. Hydraulics is great. You can get tremendous. Boston Dynamics has made a living off of building hydraulic robots, and everyone, I think, is well aware of their platforms and what they're capable of doing with those platforms. So hydraulic is great. You get great power density from it, almost kind of world-class power density from hydraulic systems. On ROV systems, however, there's two major drawbacks. One is as you get down to deeper depths, hydraulic systems begin to lose efficiency and lose power because you spend a lot of effort trying to overcome the environmental pressures. And two, this is a much bigger deal in the EU, but hydraulic systems, it's not if they leak, it's how much they leak. They all leak. And hydraulic fluid leaks in the EU particularly, every drop, every teaspoon of hydraulic fluid that's lost out of the system is a reportable environmental effect, a reportable event that operators have to report to the EU government agencies. So, especially in the EU markets, they would like to get away from hydraulic systems as much as possible and use electric systems. And so we came along and we built our first Aquanaut Mark I platform. We realized that that this is something that is a real pain point in the market, but we didn't really anticipate it. And people started asking us, "Wait, the whole vehicle is all electric?" And we're like, "Yeah." Like, "Even the arms?" We're like, "Yeah." And so they were like, "Whoa, this is great. And can we buy some of these arms and retrofit our system with these arms?" And we were like, "Sure." So that's how the Olympic arm kind of came into being. So we were starting out first with the Olympic arm on our Mark II platform. I just realized I don't have any pictures in here of our Mark II platform. We saw some videos of it, but I could have put some more pictures of the Mark II platform in here. But we're starting out first with building the Olympic arm for the Mark II platform, and then as soon as we are done building the Mark II units, we will start selling the Olympic arms as kind of a retrofit capability to existing remotely operated vehicles.
Is it a
and
5-axis or
and
6-axis?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is it a 5-axis, 5-degree of freedom or 6-degree of freedom arm?
It's a 6 degree freedom arm.
Nice.
Interestingly, the very first aquanaut we built, we used, it was all electric, and we went with a 7-degree freedom manipulator for the first Mark One. If you know your robot controls or your manipulator control pretty well, then you'll know that gives you kind of an extra degree of freedom by which you can hold your end effector stationary and do things like move your elbow independent. Human arms have that capability, for instance. And we found that while that's pretty useful in some cases, it wasn't worth the extra kind of design complexity and cost. And really, the kind of cost-benefit ratio of adding an extra degree of freedom really was not something that was super, didn't really win out in kind of cost-benefit analysis when we did that.
We got a question.
On top of that, I have one more thing. On top of that, the other thing is that the industry, the current subsea industry, has been using either 6 degree of freedom or less manipulators, sometimes 5 or less, for a lot of its products out there today. And so we felt that a 6 degree of freedom arm would also match up better with the kind of, because today, like I mentioned before, with an umbilical to an ROV, across that umbilical is a fiber optic link to the ROV, right? And so with a fiber optic link, you have high def 4K video coming back. You've got almost zero latency. And so today, when they're flying those ROVs, they are actually using either typically using joint by joint control. And so you have a kind of industry built up of experience about ROV pilots who know how to, it blows my mind, but that know really well how to fly a 5 or 6 degree of freedom arm just in joint space. And they're quite good at it. So they've learned over the years to be very, very efficient with that.
We've got a question from the group. Go for it.
What's that?
We got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what are you meaning by 7 degrees of freedom?
Yep. Thanks. Great question. So every joint gives you 1 degree of freedom. And so if you arrange your, if you have six joints or 6 degrees of freedom, you're able to control your end effector in full 6-dimensional space. So you can move it X, Y, Z, and you can change the attitude, the pitch on the roll of your gripper with six joints. If you have 7 degrees of freedom or 7 joints, you have one redundant joint. So you can do full 6 degree of freedom control, and then in addition, you can hold your end effector still, and then move your elbow of the robot, move your arm. So humans can do this no problem. You have more than 7+ degrees of freedom in your arm. So you can experiment at home. You can grab a hold of a desk with one hand, and then you can still move your elbow and your shoulder independent of how you not move your hand. So that's what 7 degrees of freedom, or 8 or 9, buys you in terms of capabilities. Now, if you have less than 6, if you have only 5 joints in your arm or 5 degrees of freedom, then you can only control 5 degrees of freedom of your end effector. So you gotta pick. You control X, Y, and Z, and only pitch and roll, or what do you give up? So as you have less and less joints, you can control less and less of your end effector.
We've got another question.
Yeah.
So just in terms of degrees of freedom, when you say joints, do you mean like hinge joints or ball joints? What type of joints?
That's a great question. Sorry for not clarifying. So 1 degree of freedom in most robot systems corresponds to a pin joint. And if you had a ball and socket joint, that actually gives you, in most cases, would give you 3 degrees of freedom, because you can kind of move a ball and socket joint there's 3 axes by which you can kind of move and rotate that joint. But in robotics, there's really only kind of 2 major joint types in most robotics manipulator systems. There's either a pin joint that gives you 1 degree freedom, or a linear joint, like a kind of a piston style joint. But that's also a 1 degree freedom system. So, but most robotic systems are a combination of pin joint, revolute joints, or slide, like a linear slide system.
And that is the first thing you covered in your robotics class, if you take that here. So when you see it, you can take that class and ask that question. There's RPR configuration, the PR configurations, a bunch of fun ones. I think that's all the questions. I think we can keep going.
Yeah, so I think this is my last slide. I just have one more slide, just kind of a question slide. So, and that was, I want to kind of wrap back to the autonomy question. So, we talked about this in the beginning, and about this kind of inverse relationship that you have between the available communication bandwidth that you have to your system and the need for kind of onboard autonomy. So we talked about earlier. So if you have very poor communication link with your robot, you know, as the kind of available communication bandwidth goes down, the need for kind of onboard autonomy goes up. Again, that's somewhat dependent on how much you care about the kind of time efficiency of your operations. But like I said before, there's usually downward pressure or upward pressure, however you want to look at it, on time efficiency, because your robot has a consumable, most likely, like batteries, or some other consumable, or like an overall lifetime or something like that, or liability. And so you generally, because it's a physical system that has constraints, you generally want to do your operations in a time efficient manner. So, talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but the way that we've enabled our systems, we envision this stuff working, is by cutting that tether. If you cut the tether, now you have a communication problem. Water is a tremendous absorber of a lot of different energy spectra. So, of course, light does not travel very well through water, and radio waves and magnetics do not travel really well through water. So, a lot of the high-speed data communication links that work in air do not work very well in water. The only one that gives you both range, the only kind of method that gives you significant range to transmit over is acoustics, the same thing that whales honestly use and dolphins use to communicate and find food. And submarines in the world's navies use to kind of communicate with shore is sonar or acoustic-based communications. However, although sound does travel pretty fast in water, there is a physical limit to how fast sound does travel through water, and it's much, much, much slower than the speed of light. So therefore, there's kind of physics. You can't fight physics, right? So there's this kind of physics boundary of how much information you can kind of transmit through water acoustically, which all that means that if you cut the cable to your robot, you're only left, and you still want to communicate with your robot, the only avenue you have to communicate now is acoustics. And there's only so much data you can push over acoustics. So, are our robots fully autonomous? No, they're not fully autonomous. Full autonomy is one of those things it's really difficult to get to a kind of a fully autonomous system to kind of deal with every edge case and everything that could happen out there. So our commercial operations still rely on, we still want to have a human in the loop who is there to kind of make the high-level decisions and get the high-level directives to the system. So we have worked both, we've worked really hard on both the squeezing what little juice we can out of the lemon of data compression. So we have spent some time and quite a bit of time on some pretty neat data compression techniques for both image data as well as point cloud data, 3D point cloud data. But that's one avenue of work that we've done. The other avenue of work that we've done is to spend a lot of time on the autonomy aspect. So again, not full autonomy, but autonomy that can be human directed. Where the human can give, I mentioned the kind of example earlier, hey, go over here and inspect this one object for me. And that's all you have to say to the robot. And the robot knows how to maneuver itself, it knows how to get to a location in front of that object that gives it a good kind of aspect ratio of the target object in the camera field of view. It knows how to move around the object without bumping into anything. All the things that a human operator would do if they were flying it via a fiber optic tether cable are decisions that we have to have our robot make in lieu of having a human to make all the detailed decisions for it. So when we talk autonomy, that's what we talk about. There's still a human there making the high-level directed decisions, but the system is kind of executing all the minute, discrete steps in order to achieve a particular objective. So I think that wraps up most of my kind of prepared comments, and happy to take any additional questions that you might have.
So, out of curiosity, so the robot operates completely autonomously, and then it communicates back acoustically. Is that just through a speaker? Is the robot shouting at, like, is it screaming at you, or is there a more elegant way of doing that?
Yeah. So we do send back the robot does send back kind of status information and mission data back over the acoustic link. Again, we can't send very much data because the time delay and the amount of data you can send across with an acoustic packet is quite limited.
It's less than a kilobyte, right?
Yeah, there are some people doing, some other research groups and some other companies that are doing some really interesting work who, just like us on the compression side, are trying to squeeze everything you can out of acoustic transfer. And so people are doing things like multispectral transmission, where they'll have several carrier frequencies on which they're putting information on to try and kind of parallelize the data that gets sent back. But again, you're still kind of running into that physical limitation, that law of physics that information can only travel so fast through water. And so you can kind of engage with multispectral stuff. We have followed and we follow the work that's going on. So people have demonstrated in some real world demonstrations of up to 80, 90 kilobits per second. But that is usually under some constraints conditions to get that kind of high data rate. So that doesn't sound too bad, but more typical data rates are closer down to like 30 kilobits a second or less. And it's not kilobytes, it's kilobits. they measure in bits instead of bytes. So it is, when you all said and done, and you want to send back, say, like pump status information to your system, and then maybe like want to have the system send back an image every once in a while, or some other data set, you are going to be waiting several tens of seconds sometimes for a complete transmission from both the, hey, send me a picture request to a return of, all right, here's all the picture data. It could take tens of seconds to get that back from the system. So not quite as bad as the time delay as like they can deal with on Mars, but certainly way too much to have someone with a joystick and fly in the system with direct human input. So yeah.
It's interesting that you.
We'll add. I'm sorry.
It's interesting that you. No, go for it. Go for it.
I was gonna add one more thing. There is optical communication. So there are light-based ways to send information, but those are much higher data rate. Those can get up into the megabytes per second, but those are only over usually very short ranges, and it ranges on the order of meters to maybe tens of meters. That's about it. So there is optical communication. There's a picture in the video when Knock was coming up in the video to a subsea docking station. You'll typically find, or that's where you would find like an optical interface, is like a subsea docking station. And the purpose of the CONOP behind those communication links is when the system comes in for like a charging, there would be an optical modem to provide wireless data transfer, so the system can offload data that is collected during a mission back to home base, like lock the data back to home base, and then take off to go do another thing. So that does exist, that technology does exist, but it's only over short ranges. And if there's any like changes in the sea state, like turbidity or some other thing that happens, you know, that distance shrinks down considerably.
Or a poor krill gets in front of the light and everything goes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's in some of our testing that we've done recently, even on the West Coast, there was it was very good. Wish I had a picture of it. There was a crab that kind of crawled on top of an object we were trying to manipulate, and it kind of threw off some of the object detection that we were doing. It was quite funny. But yeah.
It's interesting you use the term fly instead of swim. Is that a terminology that's used in the ROV industry, or is that just something you guys use?
That's maybe more of a term I use. But yeah, swim or fly. I think most people refer to it as flying the arm or flying the ROV. But yeah, that's I think it's not too unfamiliar to most people.
All right. Do we have any other questions from the crowd? One from Charles. Go for it.
For the Aquanaut system, is the goal of that to just have that stay down there and just completely live down there, or is it supposed to come up to surface every once in a while?
I'm sorry, I broke up a little bit on the first part of the question. What was the first part?
Is the goal for the Aquanaut system to stay at the bottom of the ocean for its lifetime?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a couple different concepts for operation. So and it varies based on industry a little bit. So for most of the kind of oil and gas market, our model or our offering will follow one of what you saw in that video with the vessel coming in and dropping off, the hydrant coming in and dropping off the Aquanaut. And then at the end of the mission, you would retrieve the vehicle and go off to another location. The reason for that is even though there is a pretty high density of stuff out in places like Gulf of Mexico and North Sea, the jobs vary because not everyone needs, unless it's like post hurricane, like after a hurricane goes to the Gulf of Mexico, for instance. Everyone who has a boat in an ROV can get a job out there because everything has to be re-inspected when a massive storm goes through. But in lieu of a massive storm going through, in most jobs, there's not a need for inspection and maintenance like everywhere. There is a lot of work to be done, but it can be kind of geospatially kind of diverse in terms of where and the Gulf of Mexico that needs to be done at. So that's where using something like Hydronaut to get to where you want to go efficiently and drop the vehicle off will be kind of the mode of operation for that, or in some cases shore launch too. In other markets like wind, which is wind farm, is quite big in Europe as well. And there, the infrastructure for wind is not as far offshore as it is for oil and gas typically, and it's typically more clustered around a kind of central power distribution hub. So you'll have several kind of windmills, and then they kind of all kind of connect at a central hub for the power distribution back to shore. In that industry, they are more interested in a subsea docking. Another term we call it is a doghouse, and so in those industries, they're pushing more towards what's called subsea residency or subsea resident systems. that can be kind of called upon to go do inspection and come back and recharge. So it varies depending on industry a little bit, who cares about what and what the kind of needs are for that industry. But we're prepared to do, that system is prepared to do both.
All right, I think we're good on questions now. So thank you very much, John, for coming by and giving us a talk. We really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, you're free to stay on, or you can leave. It's up to you.
Okay,
All right.
awesome.
Have a nice
Thanks. I'm going to take off, but I appreciate your time, and let's stay in touch, and we can certainly arrange a visit sometime in the future. Happy to do that.
Absolutely, I'm sure that the team would love to come and see the space and at least see the robots, because it makes more sense than when they see the person.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you
All
so
right.
much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Very, very knowledgeable, very, very tangential. All right, let us continue now to the important part of the reason why we're all here today, which is why can't I start the slide from current slide? Why can't I start the slide from current slide? How do I start the slide from current slide? Slideshow. There we go. All right, let's talk about the election for officers for 2023-2024. It's mostly just going to be a vote of people who already know each other, because not a lot of people show up to this meeting, but we should be fine. All right, so election for officers are as thus. These are the positions that are open for officers this year. The club has usually, I think I'm counting 7. Can I not count? I cannot count. There are 6 officers and 1 advisor. Our advisor, Dr. Becker, is finally coming back from Germany, so he'll be here full time in fall. And he's going to take a more leading presence going on. So the president and vice president are appointed candidates. They're appointed by the officers from this year. So those positions, the president, as most guys know me, for those know me, helps set up the events, make sure everyone gets coordinated, helps organize us to do events, and handle other things. They are crashing robots into walls. So the club outside, which is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, has decided to make an RC car competition, but their RC car competition does not have a remote.
Carry on.
Yeah, okay. The vice president speaks directly, communicates to our sponsors, external people, our advisor, and then helps the president whenever he needs it. It's also an appointed role, but every other role, which is treasurer, secretary, the chief of combat robotics, and the outreach coordinator, are up for election. We're going to go ahead and get started with our nominated positions. Justin, who has been our nominated president, congratulations. If you would like to give a presentation, come on up. Talk about what you want to do. Stand right here.
Is this the camera?
Yeah.
Alright, I see everybody sees me on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Alright. Hello, my name is Justin Nguyen. I'm going to be the next president of the Robotics at U of H. Now, I'm assuming that all of y'all know Bernard very well. I am definitely not going to be able to do as good job as Bernard, but I'll definitely make sure to do one heck of a good job and make sure that the club will at least be able to achieve better than 2nd and 4th place next years for the competitions, as well as able to expand more on just battle bots in general.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Aaron Hinkle, who unfortunately had to go home earlier, he was here about 5 minutes ago, is our new upcoming vice president. He left us a speech. Let me pull up the speech.
Hey, sorry I can't make it to the meeting, but thank you for the position of vice president, and I look forward to working as VP.
Wow, what an amazing speech! What an inspiring speech from Aaron, right? Wow, inspiring. Okay. All right. Now, let us begin for the first run of the office. Charles has nominated himself as treasurer. Does anyone else want to nominate themselves for treasurer?
You guys really need to work on your public speaking.
Can I nominate myself if I don't get secretary?
If you want to run now, you can run now. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Are we voting for everyone at the very end, or are we doing a round of voting after each?
So so we're using first past the post voting system, which means everyone can vote as many times as they want to.
Yeah.
So if we want to do it all at the end, we can do it that way. Or if we want to do it,
Because some people want to get a officer role, so they might want to run for more than one position.
I was thinking in order.
I mean, it sounds like you prefer Robotics no. Yeah. So first, let's talk about the secretary role because currently Will.
Secretary is the most competitive right now, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So so then let's go secretary first. The secretary manages the communications both on Discord and on Instagram and Facebook, and also takes the photos for this club. There are 3 candidates who are running. Will, who has texted me his speech. Catelyn, who either where is Catelyn?
She has a final midterm.
Oh, Christ! May God have mercy on her. And David Ahmed, who is right here. So David would like to stand up.
Okay, hold on. I understand absentee voting is a thing, but I don't think absentee running is a thing. So next time, can you make it so like people have to actually show up to run for the position? Yeah. Okay.
Anyway. Alright, would you like to come and make a speech real quick? And I'll read Will's speech.
Oh, sick.
Are you made a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Did you send Bernard PowerPoint?
No.
DM it to me on Discord, I can put it up on. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Do you want me to just put you on screen?
On principle, I refuse to run for someone who isn't even. I refuse to vote for someone who isn't even in the room. On principle.
I'm gonna download it and send it to you.
Or just send me the link if you can. What? Your presentation is amazing. Your presentation's amazing. Okay.
Hey, Bernard, we have a question. Can anyone run for these positions, or is it only people who are?
These are open to everybody.
Huh?
Open to everyone.
It's only president, vice president, district, right?
Yes.
Are these open to members who are interested in joining but have not joined yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Do you want to run for a position?
Yeah.
Just showed up today.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Alright, you have the speed, you send it over? Yeah, that is also her Discord name, so if that is alright. Will it work?
I hope so.
Oh, okay. Are you a student? I do not have permission to access this item. Requesting access.
Yeah, John, you should definitely run for a position on like a rookie shot. We can deal with that. I count myself as the
Why do I have that memorized?
That's not useful.
It's not. Yeah, that's the wrong role.
Look, at least Bernard's not majoring in English.
I'm minoring in political science, it's close enough.
Okay, that's worse.
Okay, let's try it again.
Did you send the thingy?
Yeah, I sent you a thing. Requesting access from the wrong account. It's fine.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Is it animated? Yes. Wait, shit, that's kind of cool. Wait, is that what? How do you view that?
I didn't get an email.
It's like after animated wallpaper. That's sick.
Let me see if I can copy the.
You're a degenerate. That's
Just download the file and upload it. Easier. Okay, while we're doing that, there's one more role available for office. There is the combat robotics chief, who is going to be in charge of handling all. Two more. There's combat chiefs handling all operations for the BattleBots this year, and outreach coordinator who's going to be handling all communication with outreach of schools and other organizations.
Send it with a link. Find out.
Send me the link. Hey. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead. You don't have permission to edit this file. That's perfectly fine by me. Thank you. Present. So why should you vote for David? Feel free to stand right here. Right here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Behind the podium.
Hello. This is why you should vote for me.
Vet PowerPoints before we go do
Next
that.
time send the PowerPoint before. Preferably not at all.
Okay. You know what? We're just banning PowerPoints from this next time. Okay. So Will has a speech he sent me. Let me see if I can go find it.
Did you record or is it just like?
No, he just told me to say it. Hi, my name is Will. Yeah, hi, my name is Will. I've been the secretary last year, and I've been running the social media and the Instagram and the Facebooks, even though I don't use Facebook very often.
But to be fair, he's actually did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Are you actually
If you
reading
want,
off of it right now?
what?
Are you actually reading off of it right now?
Yeah, I'm reading off of it.
Oh, okay.
If you want me to continue to post on our Instagram and you want me to continue handling this, I would be honored to keep, not honored, honored to keep doing so. I love typos. And
Did he send it to you via Discord?
yes, he did.
Oh, God.
And yeah, that's mostly it.
Sure, I think he actually wrote up a speech.
Okay. Thanks, Will. All right. So, I think because Catlin didn't send me anything, unfortunately. So, all in favor of Will.
Hold on. Are we doing the voting after each round? Because I thought we just agreed that we're going to do a voting at the very end. No?
I feel like that's
Just after each round. This is, yeah, it's fresh in our minds. So, all in favor. So, how this works is you can raise your hands as many times as you want. It's just we don't want to raise your hands. We just won't count you. Majority vote, or whoever gets the most vote wins, basically. So, go for it.
Does the non-members vote count?
Yes.
It does count because you're here. You're here today.
Wait, what online?
What about online? If you were online, go ahead and send an A for candidate A and a B for candidate B.
And A, B, and C, right?
Yeah. All right. So for option A, for Will, please raise your hand. 2 votes. Okay. For Catlin, please raise your hand. 1, 2 votes. Okay. For
Guys, if you're voting, raise your hand up high. Right?
yeah. For David, please raise your hand. Okay. By a significant majority, David wins the position of secretary. Congratulations, David. Please change your nickname on Discord. Okay, the next position that is open for running is the treasurer. Charles, would you like to come up and make a quick speech? Come on up. Come on up.
Hold on. Is anyone running?
No.
No one else is running. Doesn't need
You should just talk about what you want to do as treasurer. Yeah. This is going great, by the way. Yeah. No, we do not have the Joe meeting size whiteboard. Yep.
Am I fine?
Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, okay. So hi, my name is Charles Ortiz. Been in UH Robotics for since last year, I think.
Yeah.
It's been a year, and as treasurer, collect dues and hopefully you get a shirt so then we don't look so out of place at competitions.
Yeah, that's a good. That is a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we look so out of place just wearing random UH shirts. We need a shirt.
Absolutely.
And then vote for me for treasurer. Woo.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone's gotten some of those like free IEEE shirts.
Bernard, hold on. We have a new member who wants to run for something.
Can you please explain who he is?
Oh, he wanted to run for secretary, but that's...
You want to run for secretary? Ripperoni, I'm so sorry. Hey, outreach corner is still open.
Huh?
Outreach is still open.
Yeah. Do you have the stream open on one of your displays?
Yes, but I'm only.
Commenting on it.
I've got live chat, but all I see is Aaron and then a guy named Lino Isaac.
Okay, now. Oh, that might... Is he the one who wanted to vote? I don't think so. Oh, yeah, he's the one
So
who...
that's the
he's the
guy
one
that
who
you ended that you told
Okay.
to introduce
Yeah.
us to. Invited him.
Yeah.
This is going great. As you can see, we are very, very scuffed this semester just because I have a 7,000 word essay due tonight at midnight. Yeah, another one. All right, so thank you, Charles. Congratulations, Charles, for becoming treasurer. The next position that is up for running is the combat robotics chief. This is the person who's going to be in charge of BattleBots next year. He's going to be handling not just how we go to competition, but how many robots go to competition, who gets to build the robots, and also mentoring them and helping them out. Ethan, would you like to come up and make a speech? Stand here. Right here. Go for it.
I am Ethan Bush, and I am running for Chief of Combat Robotics for next semester. As a Chief Combat Robotics Chief, I'll be just managing progress of BattleBots, setting budgets, and making sure we will have at least one BattleBot. We're thinking of doing at least one 1-pounder. So, and maybe even more, depending on budgeting and time constraints. But other than that, I'll also try and help to the best of my ability with people who are having trouble with things, with what using what I know with like modeling and stuff like that, and hope you'll vote for me.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to run for the position? Yeah, error code, you can. Does anyone else want to run for the position? Okay. So, all in favor of Ethan, please raise your hand.
So if we vote no, are you not?
No, we'll just directly appoint one. Alright, motion carries by majority. Okay, the last position that is up is outreach coordinator. We have had someone online also want to run for outreach coordinator, but first we've got Ida who wants to come up. No. Are you? Okay, error code 504. Do you want to go ahead and give a speech for outreach?
He has a name.
What's his name?
His name is on the.
Is it?
You know, I'm not good with names, or at least I know he has one.
Is this his name is not Revan?
No, it's Lee. You said you read his name off like a second ago.
Just
call him and put him up on the screen.
alright, we're just gonna call you and put you up on the screen. Stand by.
It's literally that simple. So he can do his speech.
So like,
I'm working on it. Stand. Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
my screen. So,
Lord Almighty.
This is going great. Okay.
share my screen.
Okay, go
Share
for
my
it.
screen. Like literally, I'm thinking. Hey.
Okay. Hi, you're outreach coordinator. Alright, go ahead and present.
I'm presenting.
No, you're not. We're seeing an image of a motorbike.
Okay.
Are you a UH student?
Funny people.
Please tell me you're a UH student, otherwise I'm gonna kick you. Hello?
Wait, are you talking to me?
Yes, you.
Okay, I'm getting double feedback because of the YouTube live. That's why.
Name.
Okay, I just fixed it. Yes, I'm a UH student.
Okay, what's your official name?
What is it?
What's your name?
My major?
Name.
Name? Oh my God, Leo.
Leo. Okay, nice to meet you, Leo. Go ahead and present.
So I deal with a lot of photography as well as social media. So I actually ran and worked for the Cougar newspaper a couple years ago. And I now have my own business and I take photos and I know how to do outreach. That's the, I don't know. Here's some ones that I took back in 2020 for the university. If that counts.
Sports photos.
Sports photos. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Not expecting this.
Yeah. I don't think I knew. Yeah, so what's your work schedule look like?
Starting the fall, I'll be on campus Monday through Friday. Pretty much from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m.
Okay.
Are you a freshman, sophomore?
I'm a junior.
Oh.
Okay. In what major?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ida, would you like to come up here and make a counter speech?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll just leave you on call for now. All right, welcome, Ida. This is going great, by the way. Yeah. This is going
I
good.
have to be on there. Hi, my name is Ida. I'm probably not the best for this role because I'm shy, but I'm trying not to be, at least. I'm in for thankfully, I was volunteer coordinator around the ending of this semester, but we weren't able to do much since it was the end of the semester. So, but my goal for the robotics next academic year is to volunteer more on campus and volunteer outside of campus, so we can be known, because nobody really knows this club. No, if you ask anybody in UH, to be honest, they don't know Robotics XX.
Yeah, and we need to make that change.
Yeah, so we need to volunteer more school events so we can be as big as IEEE. So that is my goal for the robotics. Hopefully, guests are willing to volunteer. Yeah, help the community. If you don't help, you're a bad person.
Thank you very much. Okay, so all in favor of yes, Lido. How all in favor of Lido? Please raise your hand. There's one hand, two hands. Okay. All in favor of Ida, please raise your hand. Okay, majority carries. Congratulations, Ida, becoming the new outreach coordinator. Okay, thank you so much. What's up? Thank you so much, Lido. Yeah, sorry. Next time we'll make sure to have our meetings published a long time in advance so you can come in person. All right?
You might be gone.
He's muted. He's teleported to the other end of the earth. I'm sorry, brother. All right, peace. He's unmuted. All right. So there are two more things that are coming up that we need to be concerned about. But so one, there are no more BattleBots meetings after the end of the semester that are not being organized by me. Justin will take some time to organize them over the summer a little bit, I think, in order to prep for Comic Palooza. The last competition that we have is the comic convention at the university. At Houston. There is a major event called Robotica, where there are going to be hundreds of competitors competing in BattleBots from across the United States, including what appears to be, I think, 10 now and 11 are coming up, who are going to be competing in the 150-gram class where we compete in. Now, it is going to be about $80 to compete. Yeah, go for it.
Do you think the guy who did Sub-Zero is going to be there?
He's going to be there. Yeah. It is going to be $80 to actually get us tickets to compete. However, the University of Houston is going to subsidize that for up to 4 teams. So after finals are over, after finals are over, you and Justin are going to should coordinate who is going to the tournament, right? Just talk it over and say, hey, I want to go to tournament, I want to go to tournament, right? And make sure that they're actually going to be ready. The Eastside Studio will be open in the summer until the end of May, so that times up perfectly with you guys. So you guys will come in and do work. Just schedule that, and we can go from there. Go. Question.
So good / bad news, but in this case it's good. The summer class got pushed back
to June.
Doesn't start in May anymore. It starts in June now.
Yeah, we were told that, so we got very good lucky. Yes.
So over the summer, is the other orgs also going to be using the space?
BMES is planning on using the space. That is about it.
Okay.
Go for it.
I tried to go in there just now, but it was locked. How do you actually get in?
So we're going to have a TA in there open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that TA is me right now.
Oh, okay.
But we're working on setting up official hours. And if you want to ask official hours, there's a Teams link that I can send you a copy of. Okay. All right. Apart from that, for new officers, there is going between May. I have it up on my calendar. Oh my God, not up here. Okay, for new officers between. Oh my God, I am getting old. Okay, for new officers between May 6th and May 14th, please do not leave campus. We are trying to organize a luncheon with you guys to meet our professor advisor, Dr. Becker. He's going to invite you guys to Cougar Woods, which is a cafeteria here on campus, but it's an okay one. It's not moody.
I might have a problem.
Go for it. What's your problem?
So I'm trying to become a US citizen, and to do that, I can't get caught driving without insurance. So if the bus doesn't run, I might not be able to get to campus.
I can can pick you up in that instance.
From Sugarland?
Yeah, I'm in Pearland.
Wait,
Well, I'm in
I
Vanville.
like how that's your objection to driving without insurance. Is you want to become a U.S. citizen. You also don't want to get in a wreck and die of medical bills. But
Dying's just part of the fun.
no, not in America.
Aren't you the medic?
Yeah, which is exactly why I say not in America. You don't have to. You don't see the bills that you have to pay for ambulance rides.
That is fair.
Job security.
I have plenty of job security. Call it police.
Okay. Is there anything else that we think we should be worried about? Officers who are officers of the last generation. There was one more officer meeting for the old group this Saturday. That is the last one for the old group. The new group, Justin, feel free to put together when to meet, and we'll set that up in the future. All right. Thank you so much for coming for this extremely scuffed, extremely last minute put together video. At least it went okay with John Yamokoski from Nautilus. And in future, he will invite us to go visit. Their lab is actually really nice. It's just we did not coordinate any of that because finals. So in fall semester, that is something that they will absolutely look at doing. And they are hiring internships. So if you want to, you can reach back out to him. I'll give you his email. You guys can say, hey, if you guys have space internship program, please let me in. And they'll probably put you in somewhere. This is also my last meeting as club. Okay, bless you. This is also my last meeting as the club president. I know that I've been controversial in some senses, and that I've been mostly slacking and doing some of my duty, especially getting things organized until the very end. But I'm also a lot of y'all know it's just because I'm busy and I do way too much on this campus. So I really appreciate you guys at least taking the time to care about that. And yeah, I'm gonna miss you guys. Alright. Just come back.
Just be trapped here.
Just be trapped. Yeah, graduate school then PhD, right? Okay. Alright.
Discord role now?
Yeah, I'll give you a Discord role. Alright. Okay, everybody. Actually, you need to rename yourself first, and then I'll give you a Discord role. Okay, cool. Alright, thank you guys so much. We will see you guys in fall semester. We have one this Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday. 3 p.m. as usual.
Wait, what?
No, in person. In person, virtual.
Is it, wait, what about Ethan? Aaron.
It's virtual. We'll deal with the other one is going to be on May 6th to May 14th.
Wait, when was Aaron's birthday?
Tomorrow?
Oh, if I have a virtual birthday cake or something.
Yes. We'll go for it, Charles.
For the 6th through the 14th, when will that be organized?
We'll have some notice around May 2nd or May 3rd. Yeah, we're going to schedule it right after finals so that you'll be still here. All right?
Also, question